Two Omega girls vanished for 4 years. Before we begin, a special note. We're on a mission to reach 1,000 subscribers. Once we hit this milestone, we'll be making donations to charitable organizations. Your subscription doesn't just support our storytelling, it helps us give back to those in need. Subscribe now and be part of something bigger. Chapter 1. The Forbidden Grove. The forest had always been forbidden. Every wolf in the Silver Moon Pack knew the stories of those who entered the ancient grove and never returned, of magic so old it predated the packs themselves, of creatures that shouldn't exist in a world ruled by werewolves. But when Luna and Arya ran into those dark woods 4 years ago, they weren't thinking about legends. They were thinking about survival. Luna pressed her back against the massive oak tree, her heart hammering so hard she was certain the entire pack could hear it. Beside her, Arya clutched her hand, both of them barely 18, both of them Omegas, both of them about to be sold to the highest bidder in a tradition as old as the packs themselves. "They're coming," Arya whispered, her voice trembling. Through the trees they could hear the search party, dozens of wolves in human form, calling their names, promising they wouldn't be punished if they came back willingly. Both girls knew that was a lie. As Omegas, they were considered the weakest of their kind, meant to serve, to submit, to be traded like property between packs to strengthen alliances. Tomorrow was supposed to be their binding ceremony, where they would be given to alphas from a rival pack, men they'd never met who had purchased them like livestock. "We can't go back," Luna said, her jaw set with determination despite her fear. At 19, she was a year older than Arya, with silver blonde hair that marked her as different even among Omegas. "I won't be someone's property. I won't. But the grove," Arya said, glancing at the darkness ahead. "Luna, no one who goes in there comes back. The elders say—" "The elders say a lot of things," Luna interrupted. "They say Omegas are weak, that we need alphas to survive, that we should be grateful to be chosen. Maybe their stories about the grove are lies too." Behind them, the voices grew louder. They were running out of time. Luna looked at Arya, seeing her own fear reflected in her friend's dark eyes. Arya was small, even for an Omega, with black hair and features so delicate she'd been called doll-like since childhood. The alpha who'd bought her was known for his cruelty, for breaking his Omegas until they were nothing but shells. "Together?" Luna asked, squeezing Arya's hand. Arya took a shaky breath, then nodded. "Together. Whatever happens, we face it together." They ran. Behind them, someone shouted. They'd been spotted, but Luna and Arya didn't look back. They plunged into the Forbidden Grove, past the boundary markers carved with warnings in the old language, past the point where moonlight seemed to die and shadows grew thick as water. The temperature dropped instantly. The sounds of pursuit faded as if swallowed by the darkness. Luna and Arya stumbled through underbrush that seemed to move aside for them, past trees so ancient their trunks were wider than houses. The air smelled of earth and magic and something else, something wild and pure that made Luna's wolf stir in a way it never had before. They ran until their lungs burned, until Arya stumbled and fell, pulling Luna down with her. They lay there gasping, waiting for the search party to descend on them. But no one came. The forest was utterly silent except for their ragged breathing. "Did we lose them?" Arya whispered. Luna sat up slowly, looking around. They were in a clearing she was certain hadn't been there a moment ago. Silvery grass grew in a perfect circle, and in the center stood something that made her breath catch, a pool of water so clear it seemed made of liquid moonlight. And beside it, watching them with eyes older than time itself, stood a creature from legend. The unicorn was exactly as the old stories described. Pure white coat that seemed to glow with its own light, a spiraling horn of pearl and silver, and an aura of power so intense it made Luna's wolf whimper and press low in submission. But it wasn't threatening. It simply watched them with intelligent, knowing eyes. "Luna," Arya breathed, clutching her friend's arm. "Is that a unicorn?" Luna finished, unable to look away. "They're supposed to be extinct, gone for centuries." The unicorn took a step forward, and both girls froze. It lowered its magnificent head. That deadly horn pointed directly at them. Luna felt something shift in the air, magic so powerful it made her skin prickle. The unicorn was deciding something, judging them. Then slowly it raised its head and made a sound, not quite a whinny, more like a song. The clearing seemed to pulse with light, and Luna felt something warm settle over her like a blanket. Protection, safety, acceptance. The unicorn turned, walking toward the far edge of the clearing. It paused, looking back at them expectantly. "I think it wants us to follow," Arya said, her voice filled with wonder. They followed the unicorn deeper into the grove, through paths that seemed to appear only when they needed them. The forest was alive here, truly alive in a way Luna had never experienced. She could feel it watching them, not with hostility, but with curiosity. Ancient magic hummed in the air, so different from the aggressive power of alpha wolves. The unicorn led them to a place that shouldn't exist, a cottage nestled in a hollow, so covered in vines and moss it seemed grown rather than built. A stream burbled nearby, and fruit trees heavy with impossibly ripe fruit grew in neat rows, despite it being late autumn. The unicorn stopped at the cottage door, then looked at them one last time. Luna felt words in her mind, not spoken, but somehow understood. Stay, be safe, be free. Then the creature was gone, vanishing into the shadows as if it had never been. Luna and Arya stood frozen for a moment. Then Arya started to laugh, a slightly hysterical sound. Did that really just happen? Did a unicorn just give us a house? Luna laughed too, feeling tears stream down her face, tears of relief, of disbelief, of hope. "I think it did. I think we're safe, Arya. I think we actually escaped." They explored the cottage tentatively. Inside was simple but perfect. 2 beds with clean linens, a fireplace that sparked to life when Luna approached it, shelves stocked with preserved foods and herbs, even clothes that looked like they would fit them both. It was as if someone, or something, had been expecting them. That night they slept for the first time in weeks without fear. And in the morning they began to understand the true gift they'd been given. The grove was a sanctuary, but it was also a prison of sorts. They discovered they couldn't leave. Any attempt to walk beyond certain boundaries turned them around, depositing them back at the cottage. But they didn't mind. Out there they were property, less than human. Here they were free. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The grove provided everything they needed. Fruit and vegetables grew year-round. The stream was full of fish. Small game practically offered itself to their hunting, and always, at the edge of their vision, they would see the unicorn watching over them. Luna and Arya built a life in their sanctuary. They learned to tend the gardens that appeared to grow themselves. They explored the grove's mysteries, finding pools that showed visions of the outside world, trees that sang in the wind, flowers that glowed like stars at night. The magic here was gentle, nurturing, so different from the brutal hierarchy of pack life. "Do you miss it?" Arya asked one evening, a year after their flight. They were sitting by the cottage, watching fireflies dance in the twilight. "The pack, I mean. Your family?" Luna considered the question. Her parents had been disappointed when she'd presented as Omega instead of Beta or Alpha. They'd agreed to her sale without protest, seeing it as their duty. "No," she said honestly. "I miss who I thought they were, but I don't miss the reality. What about you?" Arya's expression darkened. She'd been orphaned young, raised by the pack collectively, which really meant raised by no one. "I miss the idea of belonging somewhere, but I belong here now, with you." "With me," Luna agreed, taking her friend's hand. always. As 2 years became 3, then 4, Luna and Arya changed. The constant stress and fear of Omega life fell away. They grew stronger, more confident. Luna discovered she had an affinity for the grove's magic, able to coax plants to grow faster, to sense the moods of the forest itself. Arya found she could communicate with the animals that lived here, deer that would eat from her hand, birds that would sing secrets in her ear. They weren't the frightened girls who'd fled into the darkness anymore. They were something new, something the packs had never allowed them to be. They were free, but they both knew it couldn't last forever. The grove was sanctuary, but it was also stagnation. They were safe, yes, but they were also hiding. And sometimes, late at night, Luna would wonder what had happened to their pack, whether anyone still searched for them, whether the world outside had changed at all. The unicorn visited them regularly, though never speaking again, as it had that first night. It would simply appear, watch them for a while with those ancient knowing eyes, then vanish. Luna always felt better after these visits, as if the creature was checking on them, ensuring they were well. 4 years to the day after they'd entered the grove, Luna woke to find the unicorn standing directly outside the cottage. It was different this time. There was an urgency in its posture, an intensity in its gaze. When Luna emerged, Arya following close behind, the unicorn stamped its hooves and tossed its head toward the boundary of the grove. "Something's changed," Luna said, feeling it in her bones. "Something's different." The unicorn nodded, a very human gesture from a mythical creature. Then it did something it had never done before. It knelt, lowering itself to the ground in a clear invitation. "It wants us to ride," Arya breathed. "Luna, I think it's time to leave." Luna's heart clenched. Leave? Go back to the world that had tried to sell them. But looking at the unicorn, at the determination in its ancient eyes, she understood. They couldn't hide forever. Whatever was happening out there, they needed to face it. But this time they wouldn't face it as frightened Omegas. They would face it as themselves, strong, magical, and under the protection of a legend made real. Chapter 2. Return of the Lost. The ride through the forest on the unicorn's back was like flying through liquid moonlight. Luna sat in front, her hands tangled in the creature's mane that felt like silken starlight, while Arya clung to her from behind. The grove rushed past them in a blur of silver and green, the magic that had sheltered them for 4 years seeming to gather around them like armor. Luna had expected to feel afraid, but instead she felt powerful. The scared Omega who'd run into these woods was gone, replaced by someone who'd learned to listen to ancient trees and coax life from stubborn soil. Someone who'd discovered her own strength in the absence of alphas, telling her she had none. "What do you think we'll find?" Arya called over the rush of wind. "I don't know," Luna called back, "but whatever it is, we'll handle it. Together." The unicorn slowed as they approached the boundary. Luna could feel it now, the edge of the grove's magic, the place where safety ended and the wider world began. But there was something else too, voices, shouting, the sounds of fighting. The unicorn stopped just inside the tree line. Through the last veil of leaves they could see chaos. Wolves in human and animal form battled against something. Luna's breath caught as she recognized the uniforms, the organized military precision. Hunters, the ancient enemy of all shifters, had found the Silver Moon Pack. "Oh no," Arya whispered. "Luna, there are so many of them." It was true. Dozens of hunters surrounded the pack's main compound, armed with silver weapons and wolfsbane gas. Luna could see pack members fighting desperately, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. This wasn't a skirmish, this was a massacre in progress. The unicorn stamped its hooves, and Luna felt that same wordless communication as before. This is why you must return. You have power they need." "We're just Omegas," Luna protested aloud. "We can't fight hunters. We were never trained." The unicorn tossed its head, and suddenly Luna understood. It wasn't about fighting. It was about the magic they'd learned in the grove, the power to heal, to grow, to nurture. In a battle, the strongest fighters meant nothing if they bled out before they could be tended, and she and Arya had spent 4 years learning to coax life from death, to heal and strengthen. "We have to help them," Arya said, her voice stronger than Luna had ever heard it. "They sold us, yes. They treated us like property, but they're still our people. We can't let them die." Luna felt pride surge through her. This was the Arya who'd learned to speak with animals, who'd grown from a trembling girl into someone who knew her own worth. "You're right, but we do this our way. No more hiding what we are." They dismounted, and the unicorn nuzzled Luna's shoulder gently, a blessing, a promise of protection. Then it stepped back into the shadows, though Luna could still feel its presence, watching over them. Luna and Arya emerged from the tree line hand in hand. Immediately a hunter spotted them, raising a crossbow, but before he could fire, the ground beneath his feet erupted with thick vines, courtesy of Luna's will and the grove's magic still clinging to her. He went down shouting, tangled and trapped. "Impossible!" someone breathed. Luna turned to see her former packmate staring at them, battle momentarily forgotten. "Luna? Arya? You're alive!" It was Marcus, who'd been a young warrior when they'd fled. He was older now, scarred from fighting, and his eyes were wide with disbelief. "Everyone said you died in the grove, that the magic took you like all the others." "The magic protected us," Luna said, and her voice carried with an authority that made Marcus take a step back. She wasn't speaking like an Omega anymore, with deference and submission. She was speaking like someone who'd walked with legends and learned from ancient powers. "And now we're going to protect you. Get your wounded to the center of the compound. We can help them." "You're Omegas," another wolf scoffed. Daniel, who'd been one of their tormentors growing up. "What can you possibly—" His words cut off as Arya raised her hand, and every bird in the forest descended on the hunters, diving and pecking and creating chaos in their ranks. Small animals surged from the underbrush, not attacking but creating confusion, tripping hunters, stealing weapons. "We're not what we were," Arya said quietly. "Now move your wounded, or we'll let you bleed." The battle resumed with new intensity, but now Luna and Arya were at its heart. They worked in perfect synchronization. 4 years of living together, allowing them to anticipate each other's moves. Luna used the forest itself as a weapon, roots that trapped, thorns that cut, branches that fell at opportune moments. Arya coordinated the animals, creating diversions and protecting the pack's flanks. And when the wounded were brought to them, they used their most profound gift. Luna would place her hands on bleeding wounds and feel the grove's healing magic flow through her. Arya would whisper to pain and fear, calming warriors enough that their accelerated healing could begin. Together, they saved lives that should have been lost. The tide of battle began to turn. The hunters, who'd expected an easy victory over uncivilized beasts, found themselves facing not just wolves, but an organized force backed by magic they couldn't counter. When their ranks broke and they began to retreat, Luna felt no triumph, only exhaustion and a deep sadness for all the death on both sides. As the last hunter fled into the forest, pack members began to gather around Luna and Arya. There was awe in their expressions now, and fear, but also something like respect. The Alpha of Silvermoon pushed through the crowd, and Luna's jaw tightened as she recognized Alpha Thornwood, the one who'd arranged her sail to begin with. He'd aged badly in 4 years. His hair was more grey than black now, and there were deep lines carved around his eyes. "Luna Silverwood, Arya Moonwhisper, you've returned from the dead." "We never died," Luna said coldly. "We survived. In the place you called cursed, we found sanctuary." The Grove, Thornwood breathed. But no one survives the Grove. It's forbidden for a reason. It's forbidden because you're afraid of it, Arya interrupted. Afraid of magic that doesn't bow to alphas? Afraid of power that doesn't submit? But that magic saved us, protected us, and now it's saved all of you too. Thornwood looked like he wanted to argue, but he was also a pragmatist. They'd just saved dozens of pack members. That couldn't be ignored. We are grateful for your assistance. Perhaps we judged too hastily before. If you wish to return to the pack, on what terms? Luna asked, her voice cutting. As Omegas to be sold, as property to strengthen alliances, or as wolves who've proven they're powerful in their own right. The gathered pack members murmured at her boldness. Challenging an alpha so directly was unheard of, especially for an Omega, but Luna was done submitting. She'd spent 4 years learning that Omega didn't mean powerless, it just meant different. And different could be just as strong as any alpha. What do you want? Thornwood asked carefully. Luna looked at Arya, seeing her own determination reflected back. We want recognition, not as Omegas who got lucky, but as wolves with unique abilities that benefit the pack. We want a say in our own futures, no arranged matings, no being treated as property. We want respect. That's not how pack hierarchy works, one of the elders protested. Omegas serve, alphas lead, it's natural order. Natural order, Luna repeated, her voice sharp. Was it natural order when you were dying and we saved you? Was it natural order when the hunters were winning and we turned the tide? She looked around at the gathered wolves. How many of you would be dead right now if 2 Omegas hadn't stepped in? The silence was telling. Even Thornwood had no answer for that. Finally, an unexpected voice spoke up. Marcus stepped forward. They saved my life. I took a silver blade to the gut. Should have been dead in minutes. Luna healed me. I felt it, felt the magic flow through her hands and knit me back together. He looked around at his packmates. She's right. They've earned respect, earned the right to choose their own paths. If we send them away or force them into submission now, we're no better than the hunters who see us as beasts. Others nodded, voices rising in agreement. Luna felt something warm bloom in her chest. Not all the pack had been cruel. Some, like Marcus, had simply gone along with tradition because they'd never questioned it. But now they were questioning, and that meant change was possible. Thornwood was no fool. He could feel the mood of his pack shifting, and he was also still reeling from the hunter attack, aware that more might come. Having 2 wolves with powerful magic on his side was a strategic advantage he couldn't dismiss. Very well, he said finally. You will be granted full pack status, not Omega designation. You will have autonomy over your own lives, and your unique abilities will be valued as assets to the pack. It wasn't everything Luna wanted. Complete equality would take more than one conversation, but it was a start. She nodded slowly. We accept, but know this. We're not the same frightened girls who ran 4 years ago. We've changed, and we'll help change this pack too, whether you're ready for it or not. Chapter 3. A new beginning. The weeks following the battle were transformative for the Silvermoon pack. Luna and Arya didn't move back into the main compound. Instead, they built a new dwelling at the edge of the forest, close enough to the grove that they could still feel its magic, but near enough to the pack to be accessible. The unicorn visited often, though always at night, and always secretly. Some magic, Luna understood, wasn't meant to be shared with everyone. Word spread quickly through the werewolf world about the 2 Omegas who'd survived the Forbidden Grove and returned with power enough to turn a battle. Other packs sent emissaries, some to verify the stories, others to recruit Luna and Arya for themselves, but they turned down all offers, choosing to stay with Silvermoon despite its complicated history with them. This is where we're needed most, Arya explained to one particularly persistent alpha from a neighboring pack. Change doesn't happen by running to somewhere perfect. It happens by making where you are better. Luna was proud of how Arya had grown. The girl who'd once been too scared to meet an alpha's eyes now spoke to them as equals, confident in her own worth. And when they tried to intimidate her, she'd simply smile and call every bird in the forest to circle overhead. A gentle reminder that power came in many forms. The biggest change came in how the pack treated its Omegas. There were 7 others besides Luna and Arya, all young, all previously destined for arranged matings with other packs. Luna and Arya took them under their wing, teaching them what they'd learned in the grove. Not magic exactly, but confidence, self-worth, and the understanding that Omega didn't mean lesser. "You all have gifts," Luna told them one evening as they gathered in her home. "The pack has just never valued them. You, Sarah, you can sense emotions, feel what others feel. That's not weakness, that's incredible empathy. And you, Thomas, you can diffuse any argument, make angry wolves calm. That's not passivity, that's a rare gift for peace." One by one, they helped the other Omegas see their strengths, and slowly, the pack began to change its view too. When hunters attacked again 2 months later, a smaller force, easier to repel, it was Omega Sarah who sensed the ambush before it happened, saving dozens of lives. When a dispute between 2 powerful alphas threatened to split the pack, it was Omega Thomas who mediated, finding compromise where none seemed possible. The old ways weren't gone. There were still wolves who grumbled about Omega coddling and disrupting natural order. But even the most traditional had to admit that the pack was stronger now, more unified, and Luna's healing magic had saved too many lives to be dismissed as anything but a blessing. Marcus had become one of their closest allies. The young warrior had proven himself not just brave, but open-minded, willing to question traditions he'd grown up with. He was one of the few alphas who treated the Omegas as true equals, and Luna suspected his feelings for Arya ran deeper than simple respect. "He watches you," Luna teased one evening as they tended their garden, a mix of normal crops and magical plants from the grove. "When he thinks no one's looking, his eyes follow you everywhere." Arya blushed, her hands stilling in the soil. "I've noticed. I don't know what to do about it. 4 years ago, an alpha looking at me would have terrified me. Now—" She trailed off, uncertain. "Now you have a choice," Luna said gently. "That's what we fought for, remember? The right to choose. If you like him, you can pursue it. If you don't, you can tell him no. Either way, it's your decision." Arya smiled slowly. "You know what? I think I do like him. He's kind, and he listens when I talk, and he never once treated me like I was less than him." She paused. "What about you? Half the unmated wolves in the pack are trying to win your favor." Luna laughed, but it was tinged with uncertainty. The truth was, none of the pack wolves interested her. They were all too bound by tradition, too limited in their thinking. She wanted something more, someone who could understand the magic she'd experienced, who could see beyond pack politics and hierarchies. As if summoned by her thoughts, she felt it, that familiar presence at the edge of the forest. The unicorn was calling her. "I need to go," she told Arya. "You know where." Arya nodded knowingly. Luna slipped into the woods alone, following the silver thread of magic to the grove's boundary. The unicorn waited in a shaft of moonlight, its coat luminous in the darkness. But it wasn't alone. A man stood beside it, tall and lean, with silver-white hair that marked him as different. When he turned to face her, Luna's breath caught. His eyes were the same ancient, knowing eyes as the unicorn's. Understanding crashed over her like a wave. "You're a shifter," she breathed. "The unicorn, you're both the same." He smiled, and it transformed his handsome face. Not many figure it out so quickly, but then you always were perceptive, Luna Silverwood." He stepped forward, and Luna felt her wolf react, not with submission but with recognition. This was an equal, perhaps more. "My name is Asher. I've guarded the grove for 3 centuries, protecting those who seek sanctuary within it." 3 centuries, Luna repeated. "Then you're not entirely wolf, not entirely unicorn, something in between, blessed and cursed by the old magic." He tilted his head, studying her. "You've changed the grove, you know, in 4 years. You and Arya brought more life to it than it's seen in a century, the magic there. It responds to you." Luna felt heat rise to her cheeks under his intense gaze. "We only survived because of you, because you protected us." "I protected you because I saw something in you that night," Asher said, moving closer. 2 Omegas who refused to accept the fate others chose for them. 2 souls brave enough to risk death for freedom. How could I not offer sanctuary? They talked for hours, as they had so many times before, though Luna had thought she was simply talking to a magical creature, not realizing there was a man behind those ancient eyes. Asher told her of the grove's history, of how it had become a sanctuary for those fleeing persecution, of the responsibility he bore to guard it. And Luna told him of the changes in the pack, of her hopes for a future where strength was measured in more than dominance and hierarchy. "You're building something important," Asher said as the night grew late. "A new way of thinking about pack structure. But Luna, you can't do it alone. You'll need allies, strong ones. There are packs out there who will see what you're doing as a threat." "I know," Luna admitted, "but I can't stop now. Too many Omegas are suffering under the old ways. If I can change even one pack's mind, help even one Omega realize their worth, it'll be worth the risk." Asher reached out, tucking a strand of silver-blonde hair behind her ear. The gesture was tender, intimate, and Luna's heart raced. "Then let me help you. I've stayed neutral for so long, watching from the shadows, but you make me want to step into the light again, to be part of the world instead of just guarding it." "What are you saying?" Luna whispered, afraid to hope. "I'm saying that I've watched you for 4 years, watched you grow from a frightened girl into a powerful woman. Watched you find your strength and then use it to help others find theirs." His silver eyes held hers. "And I'm saying that I would be honored to stand beside you, if you'll have me, not as your protector, you don't need protecting, but as your partner." Luna felt tears sting her eyes. After all the alphas who'd tried to court her with displays of dominance and strength, here was someone offering partnership, equality, someone who saw her not as Omega or Alpha, but simply as Luna. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. "Yes, I'll have you." When he kissed her, it felt like magic. Not the magic of the grove, but something deeper, the magic of 2 souls, recognizing each other, of finding home in another person. And around them, the forest seemed to sing its approval, ancient trees humming with contentment. The months that followed saw even greater changes. With Asher openly at her side, and the revelation that the grove's guardian supported their cause, Luna's influence grew. Other packs sent their Omegas to learn from her, to discover their own strengths. A few progressive alphas began to question their own pack structures, considering changes that would give all wolves more autonomy. Arya and Marcus formally mated in a ceremony that honored both tradition and new ways. Arya wore the traditional Omega garland, but she also stood as Marcus's equal, their vows promising partnership rather than submission. It was beautiful and symbolic, showing that change didn't mean destroying all tradition, just evolving it. 2 years after Luna and Arya's return, Thornwood announced his retirement, and the pack held an election for new leadership, something unheard of before. Marcus was chosen, with Luna and Arya as his advisors. The first act of the new leadership was to abolish arranged matings for any pack member, Omega or otherwise. Standing in the grove with Asher one night, Luna reflected on how far they'd come. 5 years ago, I ran into these woods thinking I was running to my death, she said softly. Instead, I found life, real life, on my own terms. You found yourself, Asher corrected, pulling her close. The grove didn't give you strength, Luna. It just gave you space to discover the strength that was always there. Luna smiled, thinking of all the Omegas she'd helped, all the packs slowly changing, all the possibilities opening up. There was still so much work to do. Centuries of tradition wouldn't change overnight. But they'd made a start. 2 Omega girls who'd vanished into legend had returned to reshape reality. And in the heart of the Forbidden Grove, the ancient magic hummed its approval, knowing that its long guardianship had finally borne the fruit it was always meant to. Freedom. The end. Thank you for reading this story of transformation and empowerment. If it resonated with you, please consider supporting our work so we can continue creating tales of those who dare to challenge the old ways and forge new paths.